The time for peace has passed, but there was no peace. What are you talking about, Burnham?
Hello and welcome to Feminist Frequency's Star Trek Discovery Recap FREQCast. I am your host, Anita Sarkeesian, and I am joined by the marvelous Ebony Astor.
That's good, but I feel like you struggled a little bit.
I did because I had a different word and I'm trying to remember what it is.
Okay.
It wasn't magnificent. Oh, majestic. That was what I was going to use. Majestic. I know.
Yeah, I will take it.
But marvelous came
The
to my
majestic
mind first.
mirror universe, Ebony Astor, reporting for duty, taking over the bridge. What?
Yep, that's what's going to happen. All right, today we are talking about episode 14, The War Without the War Within. Ba ba ba. All right, so I did not hate this episode. And do you want to know why I did not hate this episode?
Because there was a lot of Giorgio and Cornwell in it?
Yes. And also it felt like, they're just like talking shit out. Like,
Yeah.
I know that that's the shit they're talking about is garbage. But like, I kind of miss just the like chillin' aspect of
Oh, yeah,
Star
just
Trek.
like the Star Trek chitter chatter, you know?
Yeah. So I didn't hate it. It was weird. It was a weird feeling.
I
didn't
knew.
know what to do with this
No,
feeling.
I knew
I
that
got emotional at one point too, which I was like, "What is
I
happening?"
guarantee I know exactly what moment that was.
Do you?
And I also knew that you would not hate this episode. And you know why? Because it wasn't very flashy. It wasn't a gold lame kind of episode. It wasn't completely like just full tilt boogie banana soup. So I was like, Anita probably likes this boring ass episode. And I was right. I was right. I mean, it was good, whatever. But I just feel like, I don't know. When you deliver the kind of like just skillet fried kookery that the last couple of episodes have delivered, to then walk it back, to try and show us people experiencing like genuine emotion, whatever. I'm not interested.
Lies. All right, so we're back in the real timeline. 9 months ahead of where they landed, and the Klingons are winning the war. So, that's where we're at. There's actually kind of a lot. There's a lot of pieces here, right? Because they're wrapping up for the end, like the big end battle, and so they kind of just like shoved everything into this episode.
Yeah.
So I don't know, where do you want to start? I think we should start with Tyler. Like the Michael Tyler stuff, because there's a lot happening there that okay. There's a lot.
Let me preface this conversation by saying, listeners, the three of you that listen. So Anita and I stay in pretty constant contact while we watch Discovery each week, and inevitably one of us is slightly ahead of the other one, and so there'll be WhatsApp messages that are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened," and then the other person's like, "Wait, I don't know what you're talking about yet," but it doesn't matter. So Anita messaged me, something to the effect of, "What the fuck, Tyler?" or "Tyler, shut up," or something like that. And even though I hadn't even reached the scene that you were talking about, I was like, I agree. So whatever is happening, I agree.
Yeah, because I was like, wow, Tyler's not like being the most awful, horrible, and then he does this stupid thing, and I was like, motherfuck, of course. Be consistent, of course.
Yeah.
So, okay. We learn annoyingly that Tyler is back to being Tyler and that he's a part of the show again. Wah, wah.
Yeah.
That like he says that he can access Vox memories, but that there's a disconnect, and they make up this term, which I don't know if this is just for Discovery or if it was like in something else, but species reassignment protocol.
Yeah, well, before they give it that full name and they were just calling it reassignment procedures, I was like, I don't know. I don't want y'all to get dicey with the use of the term reassignment, given what you're doing,
Yeah,
and I still am like, I don't know how comfortable I feel with that, but yeah.
Oh, totally. So they're just sort of writing it off as it's a war tactic that the Klingons are using, and we don't know if that's going to come into play in the future. Because I was like, so they said that he was the first one to experience that. So, but it's 9 months in the future, so maybe they're doing more of it. Who fucking knows?
like maybe there's a bunch of like fake Klingons running around
which
with
I'm kinda
shaved
like,
down fingers and shit.
right?
It was
an
horrifying
interesting
when he was
detail.
describing it.
I
was
know.
like, I could have used a content warning for this. Like, it was gross.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
I'm
was
glad
really
we didn't
gross.
see more of it, and I'm definitely glad we didn't. I hope we're away from those like flashback scenes of Laurel and Tyler getting it on. Because if I see those Klingon boobs one more fucking time, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Well, wait a
But,
minute. Actually, now that you say that, which I agree, but he was saying that he has Vox memories. So is the fucking scenes have to do with the fact
Anita,
that Laurel
why do you
and
ask
Vox
these
were-
questions? Why do you ask these questions?
But this is important
I don't know.
Maybe Tyler wasn't sexually assaulted, and maybe it was just the memory of fucking Laurel, the Vox memory of fucking Laurel. I'm just saying.
Right.
That throws a whole wrench into some things.
Does it?
Who
I don't want to
cares?
think about it.
No, it doesn't. All right.
I really.
Okay. So Tyler is talking to Saru, and like, I actually felt feelings. Like, I actually felt bad for him.
Wait, that
for
was
a
the
minute.
part. That was the part where you felt.
No.
feelings?
There was another time. I don't remember where it is. We'll get there when I look at my notes. But
Okay.
but there was like, like I kind of genuinely. He was like, he wants to see Michael, but like he knows that he tried to kill her and that he killed Stamets, and he's like, really. And
he killed Culber, not Stamets, which is
sorry. That's why you're laughing at me. And like I bought it. I bought his grief here, right? Like I felt bad, but then he runs into Stamets in the hallway and is like, "Oh, sorry, I just bumped into you in the hallway. I'm sorry for killing your lover."
Okay, this scene. I felt more for him in that moment because it was crazy awkward, but also I was like, what are you doing walking around the ship? Like, he's going to the crew mess, he's getting a quick granola bar and a space lunch, whatever, and I'm like, dude, you could probably just have the replicators make you a hot hoagie in your room, because there's gonna be a lot of these moments where people don't want to see you, like, you have fucked shit up. Make it easier on yourself, make it easier on them. So I was glad that it's easy TV, right? So the tension between him and Stamets is probably only gonna last as long as they need it to in the show. But I was glad that Stamets, didn't give him an immediate emotional out and was like, "It wasn't you. I understand. I forgive you." I was glad that Stamets was like, "Are you gutted? Do you feel horrible about this? Like, completely broken? Good." And then just deuced out.
Oh, yeah, that was fine. Except you have two people who aren't the best actors in the world trying to do this emotional scene, and I was like, Meh.
Listen, Star Trek giveth and it taketh away. You gotta, take the small things when you can get them.
It's true. But so then he walks into the mess hall, and everyone stops talking, and he like, I'm with you. Why'd you go into the mess hall? Just eat your food in your fucking room.
Like, essentially,
and he's like, I'm just gonna sit here alone. Like,
right.
what?
Like, take that middle school melodrama. Your ass could have stayed in your crew quarters. Nobody needs this. And then when the camera, focused in on Tilly, I was like, ugh, why does Tilly have to like, I love her. She is too sweet for this world, too sweet for this quadrant, But like, why does Tilly get all the dorks, Like, why does she have to fix everybody and make things better?
So she walks over to him, and then, like, everybody walks over, and they're like, hey, we're all hanging out, like, having a good time. Isn't everything cool now? There was one line that she said that I really liked, which I was like, this is why we like Tilly, where he says, you don't have to do this, I'm fine, or whatever. And she says, how could that possibly be true?
Yeah.
And I really liked that line a lot. I hated the scene, and I hated everything that happened in it. And then later on, you're like, oh, I see why they made this scene, so that Tyler gets to be a fucking dick to Michael later and be like, everyone else forgave me, why didn't you? And you're like,
it was the most excruciating breakup scene ever.
Dude.
I wanted to be like, Tyler, like, I get what you're saying. I get that you need her.
I don't get it.
But you don't get to try and claim the moral high ground here, because the rest of the ninth graders have decided you can still play on the ultimate frisbee team, but your girlfriend doesn't. Like, you straight up tried to murder her. She gets to take some time and be like, yeah, I'm not okay with this. I'm probably not ever gonna be okay with this. So, deal with it. Although, there was a moment when I was like, I don't know though. Y'all probably should stick together because after this whole thing is over, Burnham's going back to prison. Tyler's probably going to
Yeah.
prison. Y'all probably could be roommates. So you should stay friendly.
Yeah. So, Sark. So we'll talk about Sark later, which will be annoying. But
Do we have to?
Sark said no. Well, I do want to talk about how fucking awesome his outfit is, though. That's some serious.
Oh
like,
yeah,
Death
no,
Star
that was
shit.
dope. That was dope.
Yeah.
I have a question though about Sark.
Yeah.
Do you want to field the question now, or do you want to take
No.
it later?
Hold it. Hold the question.
Okay,
I
I'm
want to get
holding
through
it.
this.
Because it's an important question.
Okay, well, don't forget it.
I wrote it down.
Sark says to her, "Don't regret loving someone." Wah wah wah. And I'm like, okay, fine. She's gonna go in there and maybe like be like, okay, right? But she didn't, which I appreciated. But like, so we skimmed over this, but I need to reiterate. So okay, so Sark says, "I know you still care for him," and no, is this Sark? Whatever. Someone says, "I know you still care for him," and she says, "I do, but that doesn't mean I should." And I was like, yes! Like, that is such a good line in general, right? Like, anyone who's been in shitty relationships that, like, still feels for that person, I really, really liked that
that
line.
was a conversation between Burnham and Tilly. And yeah, I agree. That was a great
Oh, that's
scene.
right, that's right, that's right, yeah. So then she goes to him, and, like, you think that he's about to grovel, and she's like, whatever, and he gets super defensive and is like, you should forgive me. And that's when I text you being like, what a fucking tool. Like,
she stomped in there with her moon boots and was like, I'm not having it. And it's like, good, give no quarter. Because this is a disastrous relationship. Y'all shouldn't have been in it from the get-go.
She should have punched him in the goddamn face when he said, your parents were killed by Klingons and you fell in love with one. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
She should have stomped the hell out of there. What?
Yep.
That shit pissed me off. And then, like, and then his whole, like, backpedaling from that, being like, the reason Laurel couldn't get through to me is because of you.
Yeah.
And then, like, you need to help me. So all of that was bullshit. But then I actually liked that she was like, look, I've been through some shit too. Like, yeah, my body wasn't transformed, but like, shit, I've been through some stuff. And she says that kind of work, reclaiming life, is punishing, relentless, and solitary.
Yep.
And like, I liked that she said that. Like, she was like, "Fuck you, go figure it out on your own. I ain't your savior."
Well, yeah,
and then when she left,
I think that's like, yeah, it was very satisfying to have her do that, but it's also, I think, very true. You know, like, no one else can save you. You have to do that work yourself, and it's great if you have people who are willing and able to support you, but nevertheless, the work has to be done by you. You know, and so I did love
and
that.
it's like, also, the person you abused is not the person that holds your hand through that process. Yeah. You know? I don't know. I like there were some lines in this that felt very real. And
I know,
true
this was
and
the
resonated.
good writer. You know how we're like, there's like 17 writers, it seems like, on every episode, and each one gets 2 pages? I feel like, you know, the prime writer, the good writer, they got some good shit thrown in this one.
They did. So yeah, okay, that's all I have to say about them. But that was, you know, there's some stuff. All right, you wanna give me your Sark question?
Well, it is really a Spock question, and we've talked about this a bunch before.
I'm not gonna have an answer to that.
Okay, well, I'm posing it to the world then.
Great.
To my genius followers, because y'all really are amazing. How is it that we are supposed to understand that Spock never mentions his foster sister, Michael Burnham?
Yeah.
In any subsequent, I mean, it would seem like even if he was already grown and out of the house, like if my parents had taken on a little mop-haired orphan after I was in college, I would still bring that shit up occasionally to my friends and be like, yeah, you know, like my foster sister Annie, or, you know, like, ha, my mom called me and I had to talk to that little punk ass kid I don't like, or whatever. But like, how is someone this important to your father, to your family, never brought up in a subsequent timeline, right? So they're going to have to deal with that some way.
I believe you are applying human logic to a Vulcan thought process.
Well, you know what? To be honest, I'm hating Sark less, which is not saying much because I really, really disliked him in this version of the show, even though his clothes are amazing. But I think one of the things that I don't like is that there's an element of alienness. Look at how articulate I am. There's an element of like alienness, Vulcanishness that I'm not getting yet from this Sark. Do you know what I mean? Like, the portrayal is very actorly, and James Franco is a great actor, like cool, whatever. But this version of a Vulcan just doesn't feel very Vulcan-y to me yet. And Sark was such an iconic Vulcan, and like Big Dad to the big iconic Vulcan. I don't know. I need more from my Sark, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and also, I feel like Sark is just conveniently thrown in when the narrative needs some justification and explanation.
Or when they need, exactly, when they need to have, like, someone convey some information. They're like, we're going to throw in a smooth Vulcan neck pinch here, or a mind meld. And,
well, and then I'm like, I feel like so he goes and he mind melds with Saru as if it doesn't mean anything to mind meld with people, because this universe doesn't give a shit about that. But I was annoyed. I made a note about being annoyed by it, but then I was like, you know what? That saved us a whole fucking shitload of exposition.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't need that shit. Just fine. Cool.
Yep,
Got
exactly.
It.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of looks and we're done. We know.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. Okay. So one, you know that I love Admiral Cordwell.
Mm-hmm.
Cordwell, right? Katrina.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Totally adore her. When she shoots the bowl of fortune cookies,
my God,
was screaming. I want a gif of that, and I want to see that gif every day over and over again. It was so satisfying.
It was so good. And I had turned my head away and just happened to come back, thank God, at that exact moment. And I was like, it was like a present for me. Oh, my goodness.
I know, it's like they listened to our podcast, and that was the only thing they took away from it.
Yeah, seriously, because then we hear, or I don't even remember what scene it was in later, but they're setting it up for the return of Lorca, right? Because they're like, there's no way, Starfleet officer from our universe could survive alone in the mirror universe.
Right.
So we assume he's dead, and then they immediately cut away. What? Y'all just stick with something. If Culper's got to stay dead, let Lorca stay dead. Whatever.
Seriously. Okay, so the thing about I'm sort of I divided my notes up by people this time, right? So we could talk about the Emperor and shit. But overall, what they're setting up is infuriating, right? Like there's all these lines about knowledge of the alt universes has to be buried because it is dangerous for people to know that, and we have to, there's a line that Michael says where she says to Giorgio, I see now that the time for peace has passed.
Yeah,
cool.
That was gross.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
also, when were things peaceful before?
Right. And then there's lines where they're like, Sarek says Starfleet tactics have failed us. So they're just setting up what they've been doing the whole season. I don't know why they're fucking drilling this home as if there was ever any.
Because for the people
Starfleet
like us who are like, this is not my Star Trek, I don't get it, we don't want this kind of militaristic U.S. Army commercial at Star Trek. They're like, listen, if you thought this was going to change, it's not. Buckle in, strap on, cowboy up.
And so, we started the show being like, the Klingons, these are super they're 1.5 dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping to get a little more depth, but then they kind of disappeared. They were just background. They're not really relevant. And so then when you hear lines like, the Klingons are like cancer cells, to root them out, you must destroy the tumor. And that they're just these horrible, Sarek actually called them, Sarek said, we are fodder for their feudal savagery. Our deaths are their spoils. Right?
Yeah.
Just leaning in hard to the fact that, this is a super racist representation of, savage brown folks, right?
Yeah, seriously. And just, the gross way.
They're quarreling among themselves like savages do,
The way the show wants to have its cake and eat its too about violence and war is just disgusting to me. And so that it requires, dehumanizing is obviously an odd term to hear, but it requires dehumanizing and othering the alien races so that you have a big bad that can be fought. But the way it's done here is just disgusting, Yeah. And I think, again, why I love Tilly when she's like, I think, I was thinking about environment and how people are changed by their environment, and we need to face the darkness that's within us. And I was like, oh man, why can't we have more of this? Smart people talking shit out and also reckoning with what this war is going to do to the people who fight it. Right? Because you don't come out of a war and then go back to being peaceful. and not war justifies itself. And I think someone actually says, like, this is a war that will never end. Oh, I think it was Laurel, right? But this is a war that will never end.
Yeah, she
as
says,
wars never do.
Yeah, she says, conquer us or we will never relent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the advice she gives the admiral.
Yeah.
And also I was like, why is Laurel giving advice on conquering her people, first of all? And we never go back to that. But I think that you see that a little, like, the show obviously does not pay any justice to the real cost of war, other than it being sensational. But one of the reasons I like the admiral a lot, too, is that when they show up at the starbase and see that the Klingons destroyed it and she freezes.
Yeah.
And, like, Saru has to step in and is like, get us the fuck out of here. And she just can't.
Yeah.
Like, she's clearly traumatized by these months of grueling war and losing everyone she cares about. And the loss of 80,000 souls, as she put it, like, was really affected her. And I appreciated that. I don't know if it's supposed to be showing that or if it, like, she's kind of weak because she showed emotions. I don't really know what the show is trying to do with it. But
that came in a moment where I was feeling sad because Saru didn't have command of the ship anymore. Like, I love him as the captain so much. So there was a moment when the admiral came on board and took command, where I was like, no, like, I want Saru to still be captain. And so when he had to step in that moment of whole vulnerability, the smart side of me would have seen this as, yes, she is a human, and of course she's going to be affected by the loss of this many lives, but the shitty TV watchy part of me was like, oh, like, and you're not even the best captain. Saru's the best captain. Although I do have to ask this strategic question. So the war is going really badly for Starfleet. Why would you put all the top brass in one place? Seems to me you ought to diffuse that shit around the galaxy. Like, what? This show doesn't make any sense. I can't get over how none of it makes any sense.
Do you want to know what else is really dumb? You want to know? You want the other?
I want to know.
Thing?
I want to know.
The dumb. Yeah. You ready? Are you ready? Why don't we bring Giorgio back from the dead and have her fucking in control as the captain of a ship? That sounds like a really good idea. Let's do that. Cool. Nothing's gonna go wrong here. We have no other options, even though we literally have a plan, like an entire plan. And we can do it. And all she said is she wanted her freedom. So are they setting her up to be captain so that she can exist in the world without people being like, oh, who's this?
Yeah, I who knows? Honestly, who knows? I was wondering, like, okay, she's apparently, like, they're going to cosplay her as Filippo Giorgio from our universe. Is she going to stumble a bit when she uses, like, the controls on the, like, everything? It's not the same, right? It's not exactly the same. Someone is going to, figure out, it's gonna jig to the fact that, like, this is not Philippa. It's whatever.
Yeah.
The show makes no fucking sense.
And she just like happened to not die. What? Like, come on. What? So, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah. Were you?
That's where
I'm about to say something?
I loved the look on her face at the very, very end when Giorgio sits in the captain's chair. The look on her face was so fucking good, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're kind of rooting for her at this point.
Oh,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
This show is fucking garbage.
What I would love is if she took over the Discovery and, basically did what Mirror Universe Lorca did, which was like take it over and use it for her own nefarious purposes. Like, that would be the best outcome,
which is what we
as far
assume.
as I'm concerned.
But are they going to make it so that, like, she's going to learn to be human, like Michael's learning to be human, blah, blah, blah? Or are they going to make it so that she becomes, like, the supervillain?
Well, for my sake, I hope it's the latter. But rather than have her, have a change of heart, I suspect that she would die again. Like, she'll go down in a blaze of glory after causing a bunch of trouble. But we get to see her for at least a little bit longer, because in the promos for next week's show, when she's striding down the hall in that badass cloak and those leather clothes, I was like, girl, come through. Oh my God. The costumes
all of the clothes
on this
in that
show.
Looked cool.
I know. Costumes
but
are
first of all, Tyler is involved in the away team, apparently.
Girl, don't ask no questions.
And also there's some kind of like, there's some kind of sex club kind of dance party thing.
Listen,
right?
I rewound that shit twice, because I was like, Did I just see what I just saw? I thought I
You
had
sure did.
mind warped back into the Matrix Part 2 or some shit. What is this bullshit stripper party rave? I thought they were going to Konos. They probably got high on that mushroom planet, which, what? What? That plan is banana soup. That plan is a
Yep.
crock pot full of banana soup. What in the world? They shot a mushroom cannon into a planet. And, what?
Yeah, because that's gonna work. Of course, and it had to work. There was
Yeah,
no
of
way
course,
it wasn't
of
gonna work.
course.
I do have to say though, there was something kind of nice about like Stamets' little babies growing after he lost his lover, like, and had all that shit.
It was good. I mean, because I'm a Grinch and my heart does not work. When the people on board the bridge were watching the mycelium grow and like there were tears on the bridge, I I laughed so hard because I was like
you are
this,
right now.
what is this? What? Like they were visibly moved by the sight of those mushrooms going.
Which took like all of 2 seconds too,
I
right?
know,
Like there was
I
no
know.
setting. You're like, I'm not exactly emotionally with you right now because
Yeah, I was
like,
just like, I don't. This doesn't seem like
I was too
it
busy-
justifies that level of emotion. I mean, I get it. Emotions are running high right now, but y'all are literally watching this. It's like the equivalent of someone breaking down while watching a PBS documentary. Like they're just watching mushrooms grow on the big screen. I lost my mind.
I was too busy thinking about the map of Discovery and how it looked like engineering was right next to the bridge. Like they both come
Yeah.
running in like immediately after.
course,
They're like,
of
"What's
course.
happening?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, cool,
I
whatever." That's just
I
me
do
being
not
dumb, but-
understand the specs of this show. I don't understand the tech of this show. I don't understand how the timeline is going to square with what we think we know about Star Trek. I don't understand any of it. You know what? If this were just a show that were not a Star Trek show, it was named something else, and they wouldn't even have to change like the uniforms because they don't look like Star
No.
Trek uniforms.
No, they
Like just
certainly don't.
change the names a little bit, you know? And maybe I wouldn't have hated the show so much. I don't get how it's all gonna plug in. I honestly don't.
I don't know either. I'm trying to find in my notes. There was a moment where I did actually get like legitimately emotional for like half a second, and
Mhm.
I don't remember where it was, but I was like, "Holy shit! How is this show affecting me? What's going
Well,
on?"
I would
But
like to
can't
know what
remember.
that is.
I don't
because
know. It's done now.
I'm
Done
surprised.
now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It couldn't have been that great, right?
No, clearly. No, I
Was
mean,
it-
this is all relative. We're grading on a massive curve here.
Was it
right? Like,
when Sarek and Giorgio were fighting over Burnham, like two
Yes, it
grumpy
was definitely
divorced
that.
parents? They were like,
Oh,
"We need to
oh,
work
that's
out
a
a new
good-
custody arrangement."
But that's a good point to bring up because there was like the most patronizing bullshit of like she can't handle it because she has ethics.
Mhm,
And you're
mhm.
like, it's good. We like that she has ethics. Like,
Yeah.
fuck you. That whole scene was infuriating. Yeah, nah, man. Okay. Will you give us your hair report? Because I have feelings this week about the hair.
Yeah, so I have been noticing something over the course of the show. What have we done? Like 13 episodes, 14 episodes, which is that Burnham's hair gets bigger, it gets more height when she's doing something badass, as if she is inflating with badassery. And when
Huh.
she feels
Was she doing anything badass in this episode? Because her hair
no,
was fucking
and that's
big
why
in this
her
episode.
hair gradually started to shrink and look smaller. You guys, this theory is bullshit. Don't go back and view and hear this. This
Okay,
is bullshit. No,
so
her hair
her hair-
looked pretty good this week.
It bothered the fuck out of me this week.
What?
Because it looked like there was like a chunk, like a round chunk of hair just like sitting on top. Like
I
it was
liked
cut in this super weird way. I was
Listen,
like, what
her
the fuck
hair is
happening?
gonna. You will deal. Her hair is gonna be geometric and architectural. And you will deal. One thing I loved is that, sometimes we don't get to see, like discrete sections of her hair, like the actual texture of the hair, because they don't light it very well
Yeah.
all the time. So it just looks like this undifferentiated mass. But, this week you got to see like the coils and kinks and everything in the front. I loved it. So I'm giving her a B+ this week. But
Well, okay.
I'm giving Lieutenant Owusuka an A++. Her hair just is so
Wow, you
stunning.
remembered her
week on
name.
week. week
Look
on
at
week.
you.
I wrote that shit in all capital letters in my notes because
Yeah.
there was one moment where like you see her from the side. Her skin, I sound like fucking Buffalo Bill, right? Her skin is so luminous.
Oh my God.
So luminous. And with the hair, my goodness.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go to reader mail? 'Cause
Yeah,
I
please do.
I actually took a lot of. I got a bunch of these. Well, we say
Good, because
reader
I have
mail,
some
but
too,
it's just
and
it's
we'll
just tweets.
see if they're saying the same things or if my followers are better.
Well, some of these were tagged to both of us, so
Boring.
you know. All right. At Leonard_Daniels said, I absolutely wouldn't put it past them to have Shroomy Culver in Tilly's head so only she can see him and Stamets has to talk to him through her like
I wrote that one down too.
Loved it. I loved it. It was amazing.
I would love it if
And
there was
also,
some sort of like Freaky Friday shit going on.
yeah, and clearly they just ignored that whole thing because
Yeah,
that didn't come
yeah.
up at all. Oh, I didn't grab the name of this one. I think it's Cesar Turcanu said, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but Burnham's armor was the same as Giorgio's, except that instead of full boob armor, she had only half boob armor. Never thought I'd use that exact phrasing in a serious manner. Smiley face. I looked at it and was like, you're totally right. It is total like Michael's was a half boob armor thing. It just didn't look as defined because it was only half.
Can you?
I know.
Like,
Bummer.
how much even more painful is that? Like, if you have
It's
to
awful.
sling your boobs into boom armor and like pack
And
them
only
in,
one of them is
like,
being
so
like
much
held
tuna.
up.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But like, if one is floating free and then the other one is all bound, that's worse. It really is an evil universe.
You might remember last week that I was losing my mind about Michelle Yeoh's leg kicking up and kicking Lorca in the head from behind.
Yes.
And it was her leg, and I got several people sending me messages about how like she is like a super fancy martial arts trained, amazing, which I didn't really realize. And
wait a minute, but last week we talked about whatever.
No, you said that, but so it totally was her leg.
Mm-hmm.
And there was I watched the video that I think Philip Waldron 9 on Twitter sent me. That what's his face, Lorca. What's his real name? The actor.
Jason Isaacs.
Yes, Jason Isaacs, who is not American. It was really jarring. And I knew that, but listening to his English accent, I was like, oh, right, this seems so off to me because Lorca. Anyways, he was talking about how he was really intimidated fighting with her, and I thought that was kind of funny.
Good.
Okay, but so when I looked up Michelle Yeoh martial arts, the first article that came up was about how she would use her quote-unquote martial arts training on Harvey Weinstein.
Damn.
Like, damn.
What?
Yeah. So that's a little fun fact.
That's
for
the
me
best thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What else do I got? Oh, John Harmon, who is at McComic on Twitter, said, here's a question about Discovery. Did Lorca know that Tyler was a Klingon spy the whole time? Either way could have made for some intriguing drama, and why would a Terran trust someone like Tyler so quickly anyway?
That was an excellent question, and I pulled that aside too. Yes. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than that's an excellent question, and we'll probably never get the answer because it is an excellent question.
I feel like if I asked that question, Ebony would be like, why are you asking questions?
Yeah, I would, but because it's someone else, I'm going to allow them to ask the question, and I'll even consider it for a moment. But you should know, listen, one of the best things about doing this podcast is that week on week, people are like, I'm not watching the show anymore, but I'm still listening to the podcast. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but we're still suffering through this shit. And I also feel an extra tinge because this podcast, contrary maybe to your expectations, was not my idea, ladies and gentlemen. I did not come up with this. This was Anita's idea. So to have her tap out and like try and tag team me in wrestling style because she's done with this show, woo! I can't believe it.
I'm still here. So the last two comments I have are totally related to that. So Sophia, Rune, and Sarah both were having a conversation to us and said, just listening to the Star Trek podcast and wanted to tell you that we haven't watched a single episode, but we love listening to your takes on the absurdity. And then Sarah said, we were going to watch it if your folks' take on it was good, but we decided to pass after listening to the first podcast, but we kept listening because you guys are great. It's a highlight of our weekends. That totally made my day. Like
I know, that's so great. And I also feel like we're rambling. Doing a service. No, seriously, because you could have wasted some of your precious time watching this show, but instead we're doing it for you. And now you don't have to wait. You could be spending time with your family, making pot roast, reading books,
but also
knitting.
I kind of feel like we are just bumbling idiots talking about how much we hate the
we
show
are.
with no intelligibility whatsoever. And so it's nice that people are enjoying it, and that somehow I guarantee you nothing that we say makes sense to anyone who hasn't watched the show, because we don't actually recap it.
No.
We're just like, fuck Tyler this week. He was shitty.
Listen, Wikipedia exists, okay? Y'all can read a recap.
Cares.
That's not what this
Nobody
show
cares.
is. This is a podcast, and it is, who was it? Who's the listener that said our typically ramshackle podcast? I laugh about that 20 times a day. I love it.
It's totally is.
Mm-hmm.
We know this is full of shit. If you would like a less makeshift podcast, you should listen to Feminist Frequency Radio, where we have a real producer.
Yep.
And we are and our thoughts are timed, and we are forced to stay within constraints.
Yeah,
and also we have Carolyn, who is just delightful,
who does
and smart.
keep things on the rails. Thank God.
Carolyn never takes things off the rails, so
no.
That was it for my reader comments for this week.
I think I had actually the exact same ones, except I also have one from Jay Rothwell, I believe, who said, this ties into last week's a comment I made about, I was a little bit worried because they came back into the Prime universe 9 months in advance, and I was like, what if there's a fucking space baby? What if someone has a space baby? And so Jay Rothwell says, nasty thought came to mind at the talk of the space baby. What if, in the 9 months they've been gone, Cromwell's had a baby by Lorca? Dun, dun, dun. Loving the podcast, by the way. Luckily, that does not appear to have happened, but I was really sweating it for a minute, because the 9 months just seemed too convenient,
Yeah, no, that was an awesome comment. I appreciated that as well. And I don't know, that would have added an interesting twist to all of the things.
I refuse. I would have kicked
I would have hated it. Now that I know that it's not happening.
I would have given myself a Giorgio kick to the face if that had happened, to put myself out of my misery, because it would not have been okay.
All right. You want to do your theme song?
I don't have one. I don't have one this week, so hold on a minute. Let me think of something.
All right. So we're going to have dead air while Ebony's thinking about a theme song.
No, because you're chattering away while I think.
I'm trying to
keep it going. Keep it going.
I'm trying to fill the time. You can talk about...
The time for peace has passed, but there was no peace. What are you talking about? Burnham. That's it.
That was great. This is really good. All right. That's it for us. I do have a special announcement.
Ooh, what is it?
Be sure... Are you ready for this?
No.
To all of our 3+ listeners,
yes,
be sure to subscribe to this. I don't know if you've subscribed already, but if you haven't, you want to do that, because sometime this week we are going to be releasing a very special bonus episode.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It's going to be great. We're going to have a friend of the podcast tell us all of the things wrong with the science of disco.
You folks, you have no idea how good this is. It's so good, and it's fascinating.
You're gonna love it.
It's absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
Definitely stay tuned for that. We'll release it before the next episode. If you like our show, do us a small favor and rate it on iTunes or anywhere that you get your podcast, because it helps us get the word out. Tell your other Star Trek loving friends. And I just want to shout out that Feminist Frequency is a nonprofit. We run on donations. Everything we do is free and available. So if you want to chip in a couple bucks, we would really appreciate it. And you could do that at feministfrequency.com/donate. We definitely like hearing from you.
Oh, yeah.
So talk to us. I am on Twitter at Anita Sarkeesian.
I am at Ebony Astor.
Did you have to think about that for a minute?
No, I was going to do an accent, but then I was like, I'm terrible at accents, so why confuse the people?
Maybe you should have.
Oh, real quick, before we go, did anyone else notice that when the Admiral was talking to, the hologram admirals and whatever, one of the people that she was talking to was the girlfriend of Kima Greggs from The Wire? Anyone else spot? In fact, I know already.
No, really?
I know already. The one person who also identified that person is probably Joe Black Attack. So hit me up and let me know if you also spotted Kima's girlfriend.
I did not recognize her.
She's
That's
so
awesome.
beautiful. I had a teensy weensy crush on her, so of course I was gonna spot her.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Mhm.
All right, y'all. I feel like I'm missing something, but I guess we have one more episode left. I was actually just elated when I found out we only had 2 episodes left. I was so excited. And then this episode wasn't shitty, so now I'm not like, I'm excited for this to end, but I'm less passionate about it. So one more episode until a long break for season 2, so definitely tune in.
I'm going to make a mushroom risotto in honor of next week's episode.
Ooh. I
And
like
also
that.
maybe some stroganoff.
You can check out all our work and our other podcasts, including Feminist Frequency Radio at feministfrequency.com. If you aren't checking that out, we've had some amazing guests recently, so please tune in. Thank you for suffering through us and
Suffering
with us.
through us?
Yeah, I don't know, whatever.
That's probably
that
true.
kinda
That's
works,
probably
right?
accurate.
Let me just end this goddamn thing. I've been rambling for too long. Talk to you later.
Bye folks.